So level 4, rewriting an image info as a table. When to do this and why to do this. So I have 3 examples. I don't have any of my own examples. I'm using some other educational videos and websites I found. But look for future videos of where I talk about this with my own examples. I'm going to try to make some of our own science and math examples. Also, while you're watching these videos, one of the biggest concerns we have, and I've mentioned it in previous videos, is when writing this info as a table or writing this info in the description, how are we not giving away the answer to the student? And that's going to be addressed in another video, which I'll try to make sure the link is below, but definitely look for that. I will be addressing that question. So the first example I have is the image that has it has a pie chart and then it has a table underneath it, but as it is right now, it is completely just a picture. So that table cannot be read by a screen reader. And the image itself, would you really want to put all of that information in a long description just as words? That might be really confusing. So one of the ways they took care of this for accessibility is they created a new page that summarizes what the pie chart has, and this says the pie graph shows, and it lists the information it shows as 1, 2, 3, 4 for the different slices. And then for the different slices, it lists the information inside of the pie chart. And again, this might be something that would give away the information, but this already had a table. So this is just creating an accessible table. And how to create the accessible table is yet another video. And so look for that video about creating accessible tables in Canvas or Word. But this one has an accessible table, and it also has the image is alt texted, and everything's now accessible for that image. Another example I found was from this video from Coursera. That was, they have a few free videos that are online. This is the basics of inclusive design for online education. This one's from University of Colorado, Boulder. And so I went ahead and I did a snippet of this video so we could see the images. So one of the first images talks about how a bar graph would be one where you would want to create a table for the bar graph that's being shown in terms of the description of the bar graph. Bar graphs should be converted into accessible tables, and you briefly describe the graph and give a summary of what's immediately apparent, provide a title and axes labels, and it's not necessary to talk about the colors of the different bars unless that's needed for the overall understanding. And so this bar graph on the right it has 5 different or 6 different points or items, but then they have 4 bars within each item. They separated out this into a table. So the description you're seeing here, this is by no means accessible. I just took a photo of it. But if I were to put this into like a Canvas page, I would type up the description. Figure 1 is a bar graph that measures percentage of vaccination coverage, etc. The data is summarized in the following table. And so the data of the bar graph is summarized in the table. And then they created a table with all the bar graph information. And again, how to create an accessible table is a separate video, but this is a simple table. Another thing to think about, which is an extension of the research hopefully I'll get to do, is the screen readers. There are some, I'm only familiar with like Desmos being accessible to where when you hover over different points on the graph, it will actually read it. I'm sure there's bar graphs there's accessible things out there now in terms of the actual bar graph on some kind of a web page. But in terms of just describing a picture, this is how you would do it with a table. And then finally, we have on the web accessibility tutorials, guidance on how to create websites that meet the WCAG standards. So I found this one, and they have a bar chart on their website, a bar graph, and a lot going on there. And then they give a sample long description link. And so in the long description, they do an overview of it, and then they put the table. And so then this is how you could describe the bar graph using the table. So any instance where you think you can actually describe what's going on via table rather than just a whole lot of writing out in a paragraph that would actually be hard to try and figure out, then go ahead and write the table. Just make sure the table is also accessible on your web page or your Word document.